Hi, and welcome back to Elementally Healthy, where we talk about all things health. I'm your host, Nicole Gentile. I'm a physician assistant, life coach, and Reiki master. And today, you might hear some ambient sounds in our video because I'm also a single working mother, and I just felt like it was too nice of a day outside today after a long day of work not to share this podcast with you from outside. So if you hear dogs like the neighbor's chihuahua and kids in the background, I can't say that I'm a videographer or a stereophile. I am just a woman who values feeling good in my own space, where I hope you'll join me. So today I want to talk about something that we can all relate to. It's something that comes up all the time in my coaching practice, and that is worry. So worry, we toss that word around as if it's just a normal emotional state that humans are supposed to live in. I have clients tell me, I'm worried about this. I have patients come in my derm office and say, oh, I'm so worried about that. Well, it's almost like we've accepted chronic worrying as a personality trait. But here's the reframe that I want to offer you today, and one that I've seen very quickly shift people once it clicks. And that is that worry is not a feeling. Worry is a behavior. Worry is something that we do, not something that we are or we feel. So let that land for a minute. Because that one changes everything when you think about it. And let's break this down in a really human way so we can see why. Now, most people say, I feel worried. But I ask them to point to where in their body the worry lives, which is a common exercise that coaches and therapists do because emotions live in our bodies as energy and motion. So many folks struggle to actually find a clear location for worry, and many that do, they actually muddle it and confuse it with the energy of anxiety that worry brings. So let's differentiate real quick. Anxiety actually is an emotion. It's also a physical stress response. But worry is something very different. And to be clear, it isn't the primary or original emotional experience. So what actually is worry then, you might ask? How is it different than anxiety? Well, simply put, worry is the mental activity that we use to avoid the actual feeling underneath. And here's how that might be showing up for you or someone that you love. Repetitive thinking, worst case scenarioing, what ifs, replaying something that already happened, rehearsing future conversations, outcomes, or disasters. It looks like thinking, but it feels like anxiety. And somewhere in all of those uncomfortable feelings, we confuse the two. It's kind of like the brain decided to open 19 different browser tabs, all buffering, none of them resolving, and then somehow it convinced you, don't worry, this is productive. No. Worry is the brain's version of doom scrolling your own life. It pretends to help, but it doesn't solve, it doesn't soothe or prepare you. In fact, it drains the energy that you would need to actually think clearly and move into aligned action. Worry doesn't prevent pain. Instead, worry steals peace in advance. And here's why I really want you to hear that worry is a behavior. Because if it's a behavior, that means you are not powerless to it. Behaviors can be interrupted, redirected, and replaced. You are not a worrier. You are a human who has learned a habit of worry. And habits can change. So if worry isn't a feeling, then what is that feeling? What's actually underneath that spiral? Because if we're going to interrupt the behavior, we need to understand what's that behavior protecting. And most of the time, the real emotion beneath worry is one of these. It could be fear, uncertainty, shame or sadness, anticipatory anxiety, not enoughness, a sense of being out of control, or that really painful one, which sounds a little bit like, I don't know what to do right now. And that last one, the I don't know, is often the hardest for the brain to sit with. The brain hates uncertainty. So instead of feeling it, it starts thinking. Thinking becomes a distraction. Thinking becomes the shield. And worry says, if I rehearse every scenario, maybe I can avoid being blindsided. But what it really does is keep us stuck in the mind, so we never drop into the heart. So here's a powerful question that you can begin using with yourself. If I wasn't worrying right now, what emotion would I feel? Would I have to feel? And then that question gets right past the mental fog and into the truth, because here's the secret most people don't realize. Worry is a protective strategy. Nobody wakes up and says, you know what would feel amazing today? A good, long, catastrophic overthinking spiral. No. Worry is the mind trying to protect you from feeling something vulnerable. And when we name the emotion, we can actually meet that need under it. So if you're thinking, oh, great, Nicole, so now I know that I'm emotionally avoiding, now what? Don't worry, we're getting there. Let me make this real with a quick and personal example, because if there's any life arena where worry likes to set up a permanent campsite, it's parenting. So there was this one night not long ago where one of my kids had something really big going on at school the next day. And it was something that he wasn't really, I don't know, he's never done anything like it. And I caught myself in that mental spiral. And I thought, well, what if he's nervous? What if he feels left out? What if it doesn't go well? Should I have prepared him more? Did I say the right thing? Should I say more? Or should I back off? Am I making him more nervous? Should I just step in or say something to someone? Suddenly I'm playing mental twister with hypothetical outcomes that haven't even happened, and I'm exhausting myself before the day even comes. And then it hit me. I wasn't worried. I was afraid for his emotional experience. I was feeling my own discomfort around not being able to control the outcome for someone that I love so much. And the moment I named the actual emotion, everything softened. Because once I named it, I could support myself through it instead of trying to outthink it. And of course, the next morning went beautifully, by the way, and none of my mental rehearsing the night before made a difference, except maybe I grew a new gray hair or two, and he had loads of fun. All right, I want to introduce a layer here that some of you guys who've listened for a while will probably recognize, and that's the elemental lens. And don't worry if you're new, I'm going to keep it simple. So in the elemental framework, air represents the mind, it represents thoughts, ideas, meaning making. Earth represents grounding and stability, presence, safety. Water represents feelings and emotion, intuition, compassion. And fire represents action and choice, energy and direction. Now here is where this becomes really useful. So worry, I want you to think of as an imbalance of the air element. It's air without grounding, air without direction, air swirling so fast it disconnects you from your body and the present moment. The setting is kind of appropriate, right? With all the wind. Well, when air is healthy and balanced, we have clarity. We have perspective. We can think logically and creatively. And when air is excessive, we spiral, we overanalyze, we ruminate. We leave the present moment and we float off into fear-based future scenarios. So if worry is excess air, the way we come back into balance is by intentionally inviting in those other elements. We get elemental. So earth to ground and regulate our nervous system, water to feel what's actually beneath the thoughts, and fire to take aligned, values-based action. That's super important. Now, this gives us a roadmap out of the mental spiral. And don't worry, I'm not gonna hand you a journal and tell you to write your feelings for 45 minutes like I might have when I first started coaching about 8 years ago. The look of disappointment on so many of my clients' faces back then. I'm so sorry. Journaling is great, but most people hear journal and immediately their inner 7th grader groans because it feels like homework and they're just not trying to add more to their workload in life. And the tools that I'm about to teach you are practical, they're simple, they don't require a notebook or a candlelit ritual, though those are pretty awesome, unless you're into that, and in which case, definitely go for it. So now that we understand that worry is a behavior, not a feeling, it's fueled by excess air, and then underneath it lives a real emotion that needs your attention. Let's talk about what to do instead of worrying, because it's one thing to know something and another to know how to apply it in the moment that your brain starts doing cartwheels, whether it's in the middle of your workday or at 2 a.m. when you're trying to sleep. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. That moment when your brain suddenly becomes a cruise director of a catastrophic scenario the second your head hits the pillow. So here's where we dig in, guys. I'm going to walk you through 6 practices, 6 replacements for worry, 6 ways to heal your worry, tell it to get lost, that bring in earth, water, and fire to rebalance air. And these are 6 of some of the techniques that I teach my clients. They're simple, they're short. Again, they don't require journaling unless you enjoy that. Are you ready? Okay, let's get into it. All right, so the first one, I call it the 3N method. We're gonna name, normalize, and nurture. This is earth and water. This is a 60 to 90 second emotional regulation tool. It interrupts that mental loop and brings you into self-compassion and clarity. So here's how it works. Step 1, you guessed it, name it. So say the actual emotion out loud or internally. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling uncertain. I'm feeling ashamed because I care about how this is going to reflect on me. Naming it brings the experience from the mind, air, into the body, earth. Okay, step 2, normalize it. It makes sense that I feel this way because blank. Anyone in my situation would feel something similar, right? Normalizing dissolves shame and self-judgment, 2 things that feed worry. Step 3, nurture it. What does this feeling need right now? Does it need comfort, clarity, reassurance, or even a small action? This is where water or even fire comes in. You are tending to the emotion, you're not avoiding it. And listen, your nervous system needs to feel seen before it can feel safe. So you can't problem solve a dysregulated brain. 3N gives your system exactly what it's actually asking for. All right, here's the second one, number 2, very similar. This is the 3 C's, thought reframe. We catch, challenge, and choose. And this is using air and earth. So it's a classic CBT method and it works. Worry is often a thought error, right? Not a truth. So this practice helps you separate the facts from fear. So step 1, we're going to catch that thought. What is the fear story that I'm telling right now? Say it plainly. I'm imagining that if this goes badly, everything's just going to fall apart. Step 2, challenge it. Is this a fact or a prediction or a protective assumption? Ask, what evidence supports this? What evidence contradicts this? What's the most realistic outcome here, not the extreme one? Step 3, choose a more grounded thought, not toxic positivity. Okay, not fake sunshine, just a more balanced truth. So here's an example. I can handle discomfort and I can support myself through whatever happens. CBT is basically teaching your brain how to stop submitting dramatic scripts to Netflix, okay? No Hallmark videos in your brain. All right, moving on to number 3. This is values alignment check. What do I want to be right now? This one uses fire. It's actually an ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy tool, and a favorite of mine. So worry pulls you either into the future, sometimes into the past. No, it's more about the future. And values anchor you into the present version of you that actually you want to embody. So simply ask yourself, who do I want to be in this moment? What would the version of me that I'm becoming choose right now? Okay. Another thing you can ask yourself is, what is one small action that aligns with my values? So values bring fire, clarity, direction, integrity. They move you out of rumination and into an identity-based action, because when you act from values, not fear, you're no longer negotiating with your anxiety. You're leading. All right, I like that one. Let's take a look at number 4, the 90-second somatic reset. This is, again, earth and water. This is for those moments when your body is in a worrying spiral and logic has left the building. Neuroscience shows that an emotion, biologically, runs through the nervous system in about 90 seconds if we allow it to be felt without adding story. So here's the practice. You're going to place one hand on your heart. Let me put this mic down. You're going to put one hand on your belly. Inhale gently through your nose and exhale longer than you inhale. Drop your attention into the sensation in your body. Let the emotional wave rise, peak, pass. No fixing, no analyzing, just feeling. This practice lets the nervous system complete the emotional cycle so the mind doesn't keep looping in worry. It's like hitting reset. Well, no, I've got to pause and play, not a reset, on your inner operating system. All right, number 5. If my worry had a job, I've got to thank my sister-in-law, Brandon Thibault, for this one because it's Parts Work Light and she introduced me to it. It uses water and air and it's so good because it helps you to stop fighting your worry and start understanding it. So instead of shaming the part of you that worries, get curious about it. Ask your worry, if you were trying to help me, what would you say your job is? You can really talk to yourself and your behaviors, feelings, thoughts. Just try this, okay? Bear with me. Ask yourself, what are you afraid would happen if you stopped worrying? Almost always the answer is protective. Your worry might say, I'm trying to keep you prepared. I don't want you to be blindsided. I want you to feel safe. And when you hear the intention, you just soften. You can say, thank you for trying to protect me. I'm going to choose a different strategy. And now we're integrating air. We're understanding the part with water, which is compassion. All right, number 6, the tiny action of integrity. This uses fire and earth. Now, worry creates stagnation. We freeze, we avoid, we spin. Action, even tiny action, creates movement forward and self-trust. So ask yourself, what is one small action I can take in the next 10 minutes that supports resolution, that gives me clarity or just gives me some peace? 1% actions count. They're a big part of my coaching practice. So send the email, drink the water, schedule the appointment, set a timer, and tidy the one corner that's stressing you. Choose the script that you will say. Action tells the nervous system, I'm not helpless. And that builds internal safety, which is what the mind was trying to secure through worry in the first place. All right, so now that you have the 6 practices and you hear my dogs next door worrying for their owners, they're just trying to protect them. So they're setting a great example. Let's talk briefly about how to know which one to use when, because this is something that my clients will always ask. So think of these practices like a little internal toolkit. You don't need all 6 at once, but having options means that you can support yourself based on what your mind or body is doing in the moment. Here's a simple decision guide that you can lean on. So if your mind is spinning and you can't think straight, just start with number 1, which is the 3 N's, or number 4, which is the somatic reset. You need to regulate before you can even expect yourself to reason. If your thoughts are clearly catastrophic or very dramatic, like those Netflix scripts, go to number 2, the 3 C's, the CBT reframe. This is your logic and clarity tool. If you're stuck in indecision or what if I choose wrong, use number 3, your values alignment check. This pulls you out of the fear-based future thinking and into the present moment, into your integrity, which is where you want to be anyways. That's where we make our best decisions. So if the worry feels deeply personal, old, or shame-based, try number 5, which is parts work. Thanks, Brandy. That's your compassion and inner safety tool. And if you feel frozen, if you're procrastinating, which I do a lot, or avoiding, pick 6. That's that tiny action of integrity. It gets energy moving and rebuilds that self-trust and helps you be productive. You don't have to memorize any of this. Your body will start to tell you just what you need with practice. Just remember, regulate first, reframe second, and then act third. So let's pull this together. Remember, worry is not who you are. Worry is not even a true emotional state. Worry is a behavior, a mental habit that shows up when your system feels unsure, unprepared, or emotionally vulnerable. And if you remember nothing else from this episode, let it be this. If you can name the emotion underneath, you can change the behavior on top. That's the most important. So when you understand what your system is actually needing, whether that's safety, comfort, compassion, clarity, or direction, you stop negotiating with your thoughts and you start supporting yourself. You guys, worry is just air that lost its anchor. So when you bring in earth to ground, water to feel and get curious about your emotions, and then fire to choose, the mind settles. You return to yourself and your integrity. You don't need to predict the future to be okay. You just need to stay aligned with your values and meet your emotions with honesty, transparency, and care, just one at a time. Before we wrap, here's your quick recap to carry with you this week. Worry is a behavior. It's not a feeling. You don't feel worried. You're behaving worried. And under worry lives a real emotion asking to be seen. So figure out what that is. Your mind uses worry as a protective strategy. What is it trying to protect you from? And you can interrupt the behavior and just choose a different response, one that's actually productive. Your 6 instead of worrying practices are name, normalize, and nurture. The 3 C's, catch, challenge, and choose. Your values alignment check. The 90-second somatic reset. The if my worry had a job, parts work. Tiny action of integrity, moving forward and in alignment. So try picking one of these this week. Not all 6, just one. Apply it once a day or even one time this week. And then just notice what shifts for you. I'm really curious. I'd like to know. And if this episode resonated with you, I want to invite you to do 2 things. First, share this with someone who worries a lot and who deserves some relief. Because sometimes hearing that worry isn't an identity is the most liberating thing that a person can learn. And then second, if you would love a visual version of these 6 tools, check out my Instagram at get_elemental. I'm already ahead of you on that, so it's already on there waiting for you. And if you try one of these practices this week, or this is a tool that you already use, I'd really like to hear which one resonated, what you're already using, how you applied it, and how it impacted you. These are the kinds of conversations that change how we show up for ourselves. So thank you so much for taking the time for yourself and for joining me here, even if it was a little noisy and windy. You're not alone in this, and we all do the worry spiral dance, but the more awareness and tools that you have at your fingertips, the faster you can catch yourself and then shift back into alignment. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. I hope you feel a little bit more equipped, a little more grounded, and a lot more empowered to support yourself the next time that your mind starts spinning and your air becomes unanchored. I'm sending you love and clarity, courage, and empowerment for a fulfilling week ahead. Talk soon.